The pastor placed his hand over the blind man's eyes. His voice rang out with authority. "In the name above all names, receive your sight." Gasps rippled through the crowd as the man opened his eyes slowly. He blinked dazed, then suddenly screamed, "I can see! I can see!" The crowd erupted. People danced. Some wept. Others fell to their knees. The man in white raised his arms and the roar grew louder. Johnson stood at the edge of it all, frozen. He watched the blind man cry, watched strangers embrace him, watched money rain into offering baskets. His heart beat hard against his chest. Something stirred in him. Was it jealousy? Was it awe? Or was it confusion? He turned and walked away, his white shirt now dust-stained, his soul heavy with questions. That night he didn't sleep. The old woman's words echoed again. "A good heart won't fill your church." He tried to pray, but even the prayers felt hollow. By morning, he was on the road, feet tracing paths toward the edge of the city where, it was said, the powerful went when they wanted more than just faith, when they wanted results. It was a quiet compound with a tall black gate and no signboard. A man with a shaved head opened the gate slightly. "You were sent?" he asked. Johnson nodded. The man looked him over and let him in. Inside, it was nothing like a church. No altar, no cross, just candles, old books, and a silence that felt thick. Another man came forward, older, eyes sharp. He didn't introduce himself, just studied Johnson quietly. "You want power?" he asked. Johnson hesitated. "I want people to believe," he replied. "Then you need more than words," the man said. "Words don't move crowds. Power does." What followed was a series of strange rituals. Long nights of silence. Days of fasting. A cleansing. Then a pact. Johnson didn't fully understand everything, but he knew he was crossing into something deeper than prayer, something darker. Still he signed. When he returned home, everything changed. His small church grew overnight. People came in droves. Miracles began to happen. The lame walked. The sick were healed. Blind eyes opened. Johnson no longer walked from house to house. People now traveled across towns to see him. His name was on posters, billboards, radio stations. Prophet Johnson, the fire voice of heaven. He wore suits, drove SUVs, slept in hotels with marble floors. But with power came silence at home. Ngozi, his wife, noticed first. The gentleman she once knew had become distant, cold. Their children grew quiet, unsure of the man their father had become. He no longer prayed with them. He no longer laughed. His eyes were always elsewhere. Then came the threats. A woman named Nosy Eye, once close to the family, discovered something. She had seen something she wasn't supposed to see. She confronted Johnson. Said she would tell the world. Said people had a right to know. Johnson begged her to stay silent. She refused. That night, everything broke. The screams were never heard. The neighbors never suspected. He buried them himself, his wife, his children, beneath the floor of the house he once called holy. Cement covered their remains. Tiles sealed the lie. For 2 months, no one asked questions. Until the rains came. Until the scent rose. Until the corpor Ephany could no longer ignore it. When the police broke through the tiles, the truth was no longer hidden. Wrapped in cloth, their lifeless bodies told a story more chilling than any rumor. Johnson didn't cry. He didn't plead. He sat quietly, murmuring scripture, as though seeking verses to excuse what couldn't be forgiven. And so the man who once walked door to door with prayer became the face of something monstrous. Some said he was possessed. Others said ambition consumed him. But those who remembered Brother Johnson, the soft-voiced preacher with the empty church, knew this truth. When belief turns into desperation, even the purest hands can build graves instead of altars. The man's forehead trembled under Johnson's hand. He dropped to the ground, still. A moment of silence passed. Then his eyes opened wide. "I can see," he shouted. He stood to his feet, spinning around in disbelief. "I can see." The crowd erupted. Women flung their wrappers into the air. Men rushed forward, throwing money at Johnson's feet. Some rolled on the ground, crying out in joy. Others vowed to join his church that very day. "He's a true man of God," one woman cried. "He carries the anointing," another added, trembling. At the edge of the crowd, unnoticed, stood Johnson. He saw everything. The joy, the faith, the celebration. But more than that, he saw the power. He saw the money. And something deep within him shifted. He gripped the Bible in his hand. It felt cold. He looked up. The sky held no answer, only silence. With dust on his feet and heat in his chest, he turned quickly, retracing his path through the bush, past the broken wall, back to the mud house. He knocked once. The door creaked open. The old woman looked up at him, her eyes just as before, steady, knowing. "I'm ready," he whispered. That night, the wind was still. The stars disappeared behind thick clouds, and even the moon refused to shine. The old woman tied her wrapper tightly, picked up a small lamp, and spoke softly. "Follow me." Johnson followed. They moved through dense trees, crossed quiet streams, walked into parts of the forest no feet had dared to step. The deeper they went, the more the world faded. No crickets, no frogs, no whisper of wind. Only silence so heavy it made every heartbeat louder. Finally, they reached a wide clearing. The ground beneath them was dark, the sky hidden like the forest had swallowed it whole. Smoke rose from a massive clay bowl at the center, swirling upward like a serpent dancing slowly. 7 women stood around it, dressed in black, their faces painted white like bone. Their eyes glowed softly, but none of them moved. Then one of them spoke, though her lips didn't part. "Tell us what you want." Johnson's voice trembled, but his words were clear. "I want to heal. I want to do miracles. I want my church to be full." One of the women stepped forward and stretched out her hand. In her palm lay a black ring, smooth and glowing faintly as though fire rested inside it. "Wear this on your right hand," she said. "When you wish to heal, speak little. Touch the head. That is all." He took the ring, studied it, slid it onto his finger. The wind around him stilled. The trees seemed to freeze. The old woman gave a nod. "Go. Use it. See what follows." Johnson turned and began his journey back, leaving behind the smoke and the silent women, whose eyes never blinked. By the time morning came, the sun was still slow to rise. He stepped into the village with his Bible under his arm and the black ring on his hand. It didn't glow, it didn't pulse, but it felt heavy, as if it held something unseen. He walked through the town as he always had, but this time, he wasn't looking to be seen. He was looking for someone to touch. He saw him, Mr. Yude, the old man who had spent years in a wheelchair. Once strong, now bent, he sat in front of his shop, unmoving. Johnson approached quietly. "Good morning, sir." Mr. Yude looked up and laughed, a deep, rolling laugh. "Pastor Johnson? You still walk around? Even big pastors with jets couldn't help me. What can you do?" Johnson didn't answer. He stepped forward, placed his right hand gently on the old man's head, and whispered, "In the name of Jesus, be healed." At first, nothing. Then Mr. Yude blinked, looked down, moved one leg, then the other. Slowly, he rose, steadily, firmly, like a tree breaking through dry ground. Gasps came from every direction. A woman screamed. A boy dropped his bicycle. A passerby removed his cap and fell to his knees. "It's a miracle!" someone shouted. "Pastor Johnson has power." People surrounded him. Some clapped. Some wept. Mr. Yude embraced him tightly, tears running down his face. "You did it. You did what they couldn't." Johnson smiled, just faintly. He glanced at his right hand. The ring remained dark. But something else had started to shine. His name. Sunday came. For the first time, the church was full. People lined the windows. Some sat on stones. Others stood far outside. They didn't come out of curiosity. They came with belief. Johnson wore a wide white shirt. Bible tucked beneath his arm. The ring on his right hand. He walked slowly toward the wooden building. People followed behind. Some limping, some holding blind children, others clinging to hope. When he opened the church door, there were no empty seats. Mothers held babies close. Fathers stood in corners. Children sat in aisles. Outside, more waited, ears pressed to the wall. The church, once filled with echoes, now pulsed with life. He didn't jump. He didn't shout. He prayed. Then calmly, he called out a man everyone knew, the madman who had roamed the town for a decade, shirtless, laughing at walls and whispering to trees. Johnson laid a hand on his head and whispered a short prayer. The man screamed, fell, rolled, then sat up. His eyes were calm, his voice steady. "Where am I?" he asked. The crowd roared. "Pastor Johnson carries fire," they cried. They threw money, brought envelopes, offered land, cows, even cars. Word spread like wind through dry leaves. By the next week, there was no room to sit or stand inside. Even other pastors came, watching with wide eyes. Johnson kept healing. The sick rose. The blind saw. The mute spoke. The paralyzed walked, the crippled walked. People escaped accidents. Poverty melted. Johnson started selling miracle oil. He blessed handkerchiefs. He gave out small bottles of water, telling people to drink before sleeping. They came from distant towns, entire buses parking outside. They called him Daddy. They called him Fire Prophet. When the church could no longer hold the crowd, he began planning to break it down and build a bigger one on the land gifted to him by a grateful church member. That was when the old woman returned. The night was still. Too still. Even the dogs didn't bark. Johnson was in his room, reading the Bible. His fingers brushed the ring as if it was part of his skin. Then came the knock. Slow, soft, 3 times. He opened the door. The old woman stood there in the same wrapper, with the same calm eyes. She didn't smile. She didn't step in. She only said, "It is time." Johnson looked at her. His heart didn't race. It was calm, as though he'd been expecting her. "You've used the power well," she said. But now, to make the new church flourish, you must give something back. Bury the blood of 7 cows beneath it. That's all, he asked. That is all. The next day, he bought 7 cows, strong, black and brown. That night, under a dark sky, he carried a knife. One by one, he slaughtered them. The ground drank the blood. He collected it in a calabash, red, warm, thick. He dug a deep hole where the altar would be. Buried the cows, their eyes still open, mouths frozen. He poured the blood into another hole, sealed it with sand and cement. His white shirt turned red. He took the calabash to the forest. She was waiting. He handed it to her. She nodded. No words. She turned and disappeared into the trees. Weeks later, the new church was complete. Huge speakers, bright lights, a shining altar, red carpets. On opening day, thousands came. Men in suits, women in lace, the sick, the wealthy, the poor. The place overflowed. Johnson stood before them, and someone shouted from the crowd, "Long live the man of God!" But deep within him, something else was growing. Watching. Quiet. Life became sweet like mangoes in Harmattan. Johnson got married. Her name was Ngozi. Her skin soft like the evening wind. Her smile calm like still waters. She sat quietly beside him in church. Soon they had 2 children. Ibuka, playful, strong, always running, climbing trees, asking questions like, "Daddy, can God see us through the roof?" And Chidera, gentle and kind, always holding her brother's hand like it was her favorite toy. People adored them. Women whispered, "God truly blessed him." Men said, "That's the kind of home I want." They looked perfect. Every Sunday, the church overflowed. Chairs outside. Speakers blaring. Miracles everywhere. Blind eyes opened. Sick people healed. Couples testified, holding twins. Johnson now owned cars. Big ones, sleek and black. Houses too. People came to him for prayers, favors, and blessings. Everything felt perfect. Until one night. The knock came again. Slow, steady, 3 times. Ngozi was asleep. So were the children. Johnson opened the door. She was there. Same wrapper. Same calm silence. She didn't enter. She didn't blink. "It is time again," she said. "Years have passed. You've grown. Now we require more." Johnson's face fell. "How many?" 30 cows. Then she turned and vanished into the night. He didn't argue. Didn't ask questions. The next day, he bought 30 cows. They filled the backyard like silent shadows. That night, under a sky with hiding stars, Johnson began. One by one. Blood flowed into the calabash, thick and dark. He tied a black cloth around his head. His hands were red. His robe stained. His eyes too calm. He walked to the church. The altar now had a deep space waiting. He knelt, holding the calabash. The blood inside moved slowly, like it breathed. But he didn't know Ngozi had woken. She noticed his absence. Waited. Listened. Then stood. She followed quietly, barefoot, her wrapper dragging. Her heart beat loud. She reached the church. Opened the door gently. What she saw froze her breath. Her husband, kneeling by a hole, blood dripping, his white garments soaked. His mouth muttering, "Jesus Christ, she screamed. Johnson turned. Their eyes met. Hers wide with fear. His burning. She turned to run. But he blocked the door, kneeling. "Please," he whispered. "Don't tell anyone. I helped the old woman once." She promised. No human blood. Only cows. But Ngozi didn't stop. "You're not a man of God. I will expose you tomorrow in front of everyone." She turned and ran. Fast. Her wrapper flying. Johnson followed, not walking but running. Ngozi burst into the house, grabbed her phone, hand shaking. "Hello. Come to my house. Tomorrow I'll tell the world what I saw." Johnson entered. Silent. Chest heaving. Eyes blank. "Please," he whispered. "You're a devil in white," she cried. "I'll tell everyone. I'll stand on that altar and expose you." Then something inside him shifted. "If she won't stop, I'll stop her." He moved into the kitchen, opened a corner, took out a cutlass. She didn't see it at first. Then she turned. Screamed. But it was too late. 1, 2, 3. Silence. Blood touched the chair, the table, the walls. Suddenly, 2 small feet rushed in. The noise woke the children. "Ibuka! Chidera!" They stood by the door. "Mommy," Chidera said. Then they saw her. And him. Holding something sharp. They screamed. Fear and pain in their voices. Johnson turned, eyes dark, hands red. 1, 2. Silence again. The house became too quiet, as though holding its breath. That night, the stars did not shine. No lights. No voices. Just one man digging. Johnson stood in the middle of the parlor. The floor was broken. A hole was deep. Ngozi's body lay beside the children. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He dug, slow and heavy, like burying pieces of his own soul. He wrapped Ngozi in ankara, blue and gold. Then Ibuka. Then Chidera. Placed them gently, as if they were sleeping. Covered them with sand. Then cement. Smoothed the floor. Cleaned everything. He changed clothes. Washed. And just like that it was gone. In the following days, he told everyone they traveled. A family trip, he said. No one asked. Because Pastor Johnson was not just a pastor. He was the man of God. Weeks passed. The church stayed full. No one noticed the floor. Until an NYSC Corps member living near the parlor complained of the smell. The police came. Broke the floor. They found them, Ibuka and Chidera, wrapped in white, holding each other. Johnson sat on the veranda, muttering Bible verses. He confessed. The town wept. The country mourned. He was arrested and taken to court. The courtroom was silent. The air heavy. Johnson sat in the middle. Hands tied. Robe stained. The judge stood, hammer ready. For killing your wife and children. For hiding them in your floor, he said. Johnson didn't cry. Didn't blink. Then, just before the hammer fell, his eyes opened. He gasped. Sat up. He was in his room. The sun was rising. Birds chirped. The ring was still on his hand. The Bible beside him. It was a dream. But it felt real. Sweat on his skin. Fear in his bones. He touched his face. His chest. Looked at the ring. Then slowly he took it off. He stood. Walked out. And threw the ring far into the bush. From that day, Johnson stopped chasing power, stopped craving crowds. He didn't want miracles anymore. He prayed gently, like a boy again. Still walked from house to house. Still wore his white shirt. But now, his voice was soft. His heart light. When people asked, "Pastor, don't you want a big church again?" he smiled and said, "No," because he had seen what power without peace could do. And so Pastor Johnson lived quietly. He died with no cars, no titles. But his grave was clean. And his heart clean too. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more African tales like this. Thank you.